Sylvia, roll call.
Mayor Mays.
Here.
Council President Rosner.
Here.
Thank you. Councilor Grouse.
Here.
Councilor Garland.
I haven't seen yet.
All right, we'll give him a minute. Councilor Young. Here.
Go down. Yeah, if you want to come down, just drop you if there's a problem.
Councilor Griffin.
I'm here.
And Councilor Scott.
I'm here.
Thank you.
Yes, I guess we weren't all here when we were going to start, but thank you, Sylvia. Now we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I'm the only one that didn't have the mute thing on.
I was lip syncing.
Yeah,
My mute was off. I was just being soft. You did it so well, Mayor.
All right, Sean's with us now, Mr. Mayor. Sorry about that.
Great, thanks. Sorry, Sean. It's all Joe's fault.
It always is, Mr. Mayor.
All right.
When in doubt, blame Joe, as we all say.
All right, let's do some city council stuff.
That's right. Next on the agenda is approval of the agenda.
I move to approve. Second.
Second.
All in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Council. Consent agenda this evening, we've got 4 items. Item A is approval of the June 30th, 2020 City Council meeting minutes. Item B is approval of the July 7th, 2020 City Council meeting minutes. Item C is Resolution 2020-043, appointing Mike Hirsch to the Sherwood Planning Commission. And item D is Resolution 2020-044, appointing Taylor Giles to the Sherwood Planning Commission.
I move consent.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion on the motion. All in favor of approving the consent agenda as presented, say aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you, Council. Citizen comments. Sylvia, do we have any citizen comments today?
Mayor and Council, I do not.
Thank you, Sylvia. Presentations. We have one presentation today. Something we like to do every year. We do recognize outstanding Sherwood High School students, in this case for their academic achievements. Last month we recognized for sports and art achievements, and today we will recognize students for their academic achievements. It has been an incredibly odd, strange, new reality of a year for our students, and we certainly want to recognize these students for their ability to adapt and overcome these challenges, and end the year with a 4.0 GPA. So we will be giving each of these students a certificate of achievement from City Council, recognizing their achievement of having perfect grades for the 2019-20 school year. As a City Council, we are proud of each and every one of you. As a community, we are very proud of each and every one of you. And the only ones more proud, of course, are your parents and family. So Joe Paul, our city manager, is going to read out our distinguished students today. And we will be, giving them a certificate in the very near term. Normally, we have them come to city council meetings and let them come and accept these in person, but unfortunately not possible this year. Joe, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm assuming that folks can see my screen that I tried to share?
Yep.
Okay. So before I start naming off the many names of these outstanding students, I want to thank Sylvia Murphy, our city recorder, for putting this PowerPoint together. I really appreciate it, and I will try very hard not to mangle people's names, last names, but normally each year I get some wrong, so I apologize ahead of time. So, without further ado, we're going to start with the senior class 2020. Dane Basinger, Mason Bond, Ava Bowie, Madison Brown, Anna Brunner, Peter Dinsdale, Skylar Dykeman, Allison Douglas, Natalie Driscoll. Anna Dummer, Addison Enger, Grace Gary, Cassandra Gailey, Lucas Ho, Callista Carr, Andrew Lay, Dallin Marker, Travis Matlock. Kendall Nielsen, Gavin Pham, Victor Polanco, Annika Prigodich, Isabel Robinson, Miles Schultz, Abby Smith, Brandon Spels Will, Hunter Stewart, Annika Tuggy. The last three seniors, Ishan Varma, Connie Williamson, and Josephine Wilson. Our next list of students are juniors: Delaney Bands, Jay Baldwin, Jack Colzel, Cameron Christensen, Hannah Christensen, Samantha Christensen, James Day, Jace Derry, Rebecca Dombeck, Sophia Flowers, Jack Fulweiler, Jonah Gent, Cambria Hagfelt, Kelsey Harty, Anna Hieronymus. Just going to scroll here for a second. Gage LaCour, Cameron Lee, David Ma, Braden McDonald, Kaylee Miller, Andrew Morris, Jolie Morris, Yechin Na, Maya Oliver, Phoebe Pennell. Sankalp Patel, Cameron Porter, Ann Sandilands, Ty Stormont, Elia Tarbin, Mika Telfer, Leighton Yang. Now we're into the sophomore class. Latacia Adjay, Kendall Baldery, Kate Bowden, Elisa Camp, Taylor Card, Reese Clauser, Mallory Clough, Dana Cowley, Megan Cox, Macy DeMeyer. Kyla Flaherty, Kayla Ferrano, Maddox Gillett, Caden Glass, Annika Goddard, Nicholas Guiley, Emily Anachiak, Jessica Hornabuk, Alara Ince, Iodola Coyote Papula. Ella Lahart, Annika Lado, Riley Lissick, Maximilian Libman, Carson Lindgren, Brenna Matthews, Claire McDonald, Allison McCullough, Allison McIntosh, Lena McLaughlin, Meg McLaughlin, Kaylee Monahan, Megan Murphy, Kayla North, Ella Perenboom, Adriana Petrone, Anthony Rena, Brendan Roach, Erica Regala Villalobos, Kaylee Sanchez, Claire Shipman, Olivia Stanke, Brett Steele, Harrison Strom, Avery Stutz, Sella Telfer, Hannah Tran, Jane Westover, Marlene Wilson, Brian Youngblock, Dominic Zangara. And last but not least, our freshmen, Megan Onderud, Lauren Anderson, Andrew Ard, Caitlin Bagley, Sydney Bagosi, Sean Baldwin, Andrew Beloff, Matthew Blake, Emery Boisfert, Yannicka Borden, Peter Boyer, Owen Christie, Dylan Conroe, Mason Cutsworth, Luke Day, Laney Derry, Ryan DeVries, Emma Douglas, Lauren Eckstein, Liliana Engstrom, Dane Everly, Lily Fairman, Reed Falcon, Jacob Flossie, Julie Gomez Rosales, Jacob Golding, Madeline Green, Derek Gregory, Drew Gregory, Wyatt Gregory, Andre Bruno, Emily Hale, Chloe Hardy, Emily Hornbuck, Hannah Jakubowski, Laura Johnson, Aya Kunle Coyote Papalua, Jonah Kim, Caitlin Kirkpatrick, Sydney Knowles, Caitlin Cruiser, Anthony Lee, Alyssa Levy, Dylan Lovely, Lucas Machado, Sophia Masajewski, Emily Marker, Morgan MacArthur, Jaden McCluskey, Kulia McLaughlin, Natalie Niemeyer, Tyler McGuinn, Delaney Nelson, Avery Ox, Aiden Owens, Evan Peterson, Riley Permota, Annalie Peters, Anna Phillips, Elise Ramage, Peyton Redding, Isabel Rogeritz, Paisley Serrano Ramos, Rian Shannon, Caleb Sheets, Mackenzie Stamets, Amanda Starling, Owen Swarkout, Ella Thompson, Karen Tran, Joshua Trerise, Mira Tuggy, Jesse Urbach, Sabrina Urban, Elise Vargason, Ella Weathers, Chloe Weber, Anna Woolman, and Claire Worthy.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
Reading those off, and I'd be willing to bet you got at least half of those pronounced right.
Yeah.
Probably better than what I would have done. Thank you, and congratulations again to all those students. Any counselors want to make a shout out or comment on?
I'll make a shout out. It never ceases to amaze me the number of 4.0 students that we have in the city of Sherwood, and every year I'm just blown away at the number. And Mayor didn't get to embarrass anybody this year like my son, like he did last year. But I did want to shout out to my son as well because he's not on that list, but he did get a 4.0. He left Sherwood High this year to do an early college program, but he also got a 4.0 his senior year. So congrats to Andrew Young.
Awesome. Anybody else want to add any comments?
I would like to just say, as the father of also a senior who graduated this year, going through the senior graduation, the little tour on the track, I hope all of those people that participated in that know how much we appreciate that. It was such an odd year, to have to go through that. I hope the seniors don't feel, cheated too much. But I feel like the staff at the school district and the teachers especially really just tried to really make a big deal out of it. And I just really appreciate them. And I think one of the reasons we have so many 4.0s is we really have some really great teachers and great administration people as well. So that's it.
I'd like to throw one out real quick too. I wanted to just call out Eva Bowie, who, in addition to being a great student, was also a member of the Cultural Arts Commission. And so we've got a few of our boards and commissions that have focused on having some younger members of our community engaged. So she's going to be going away this year to college. So going to be an opening on that Arts Commission. But I also just wanted to call her out for not only being an exceptional student, but doing her part to help make Sherwood a great place. So thanks, Eva.
Awesome. Yeah, it's great to see new names, also familiar names, folks that we either know some of those students personally, or their parents or family members. It's a great thing about a small town. Smallish town, over 28,000. So we'll move on to new business. We've got 3 items under new business. The first one is Resolution 2020-045, recommending legislative priorities to the League of Oregon Cities for the 2021 legislative session. Joe?
So Mayor and Council, and members of the public, this is a normal process for the City Council and cities in Oregon prior to a long legislative session. So we will have a long legislative session starting in January 2021. And as a member of the League of Oregon Cities, each 2 years, there are various policy committees that meet for about 3 or 4 months. Many of you participate in those policy committees. I and a number of my department heads also participate. They put together a list of potential priorities in terms of what the League is going to focus on in the long session. We recently received a ballot that had 26 different items to select from, and the League basically asked each city to pick their top 4. So back on July 7th, we held a work session with Council, and we reviewed the 26 different items and the summary of each of the items, and reached a consensus of the 4 top. And what tonight's resolution I'm asking you to do is to vote officially to make those your top 4 as a city. As a reminder, it doesn't mean the other 22 are not important. It's just that the League is trying to get input from all its different members around the state, and formally asks for cities to give them the top 4. So the top 4 priorities that came out of the work session were COVID-19 economic recovery investments was number 1. 2, these are not in priority, these are just listed in terms of number. Municipal broadband and municipal pole protection. The 3rd item was right-of-way/franchise fee authority preservation. And then the 4th item was mental health service delivery. So that was the consensus out of the work session. The resolution that is in front of you for consideration has those 4 listed as the top 4. And I would just basically open it up for any discussion or questions you might have as a council.
Thanks, Joe. Any questions for Joe? Any discussion?
Hey, just a quick comment. And Joe, you touched on this briefly, but just for those that are listening out there, the League of Oregon Cities does a lot of great work for cities across Oregon and for the communities that those cities support. They've been heavily involved, working with the governor's office during the COVID response at the state level. But, more importantly, this process, there's a lot of people down at the League and many committees made up of elected officials and city employees that the League work with to come up with these priorities and make sure that they're speaking for us in Salem as Salem works through these upcoming legislative sessions and looking out for us. So they do a great job, and I had a lot of fun working on those committees this time around.
I'd just like to add that, we all kind of submitted our preferences, independently to Mr. Gall, and we were all pretty well in alignment on the ones that ended up getting chosen. So it wasn't a super contentious process, and I think it's really good that us on council are all seeing things in the same light right now with our priorities. So
And the one thing also more for the public that as a council we'll revisit this, and we have our own lobbying firm that is down in Salem specific to Sherwood, and some of these items that were on the leaks list may be important for our own lobbyists to work on in the legislative session in 2021.
Any other discussion or any motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving resolution 2020-045, recommending legislative priorities to the League of Oregon Cities for the 2021 legislative session, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Counsel. Thanks, Joe. Item B is the Harris Initiative Petition, ISHE 2020-1, proposed to the November 2020 ballot. Sylvia and Josh?
So, Mayor and Council, I'll just briefly go through the staff report, and then City Attorney Stover can kind of jump in at the tail end to explain your options moving forward. So basically, as the council is aware, the public may or may not be aware, there was an initiative filed here at the city back in March of this year. The initiative petition was basically to allow recreational marijuana facilities and adopt land use regulation and designating taxes. The process of the initiative petition was upon approval by the city recorder. They went out and had to gather signatures. The number of signatures gathered was, number required was 1,340. Those signatures were submitted. They were provided to Washington County Elections, which then verified the signatures. Upon the county elections verifying signatures, the petition has now, the paperwork has now come back with a required number of signatures. So at this point, that petition now needs to come before the city council, for the council to consider that, and you have a couple different options that you can take moving forward.
Thanks, Sylvia. So as Sylvia mentioned, there are a few different options. City council can take action this evening to adopt the initiative petition, which would mean that the initiative proposal, as far as the changes to the city code, goes into effect without an election being held. The city council can reject the initiative petition, which would mean that the measure goes before the voters at the November 2020 election. Or, as council has most often done in recent years, at least council can take no action whatsoever, and by default that means that, again, the measure would go before the voters at the November 2020 election. The other option that can work in coordination with either rejecting the petition or taking no action is to refer a competing measure to the ballot. And finally, just in terms of next steps, if council does not adopt the initiative this evening and either rejects it or takes no action, meaning it goes on the ballot in November, the next step would be for council to approve an explanatory statement for the initiative, which we will do at our next council meeting. Happy to answer any questions.
Josh, Sean, is there a reason why we separate those two actions, the explanatory statement and just the adoption or no action on the petition?
Yeah, if city council were to adopt the initiative petition, which obviates the need for an election, then there's no explanatory statement. So it's based on the outcome of this evening, whether an explanatory statement is even needed.
And the explanatory statement, is that what appears in the voters' pamphlet to give a little bit more depth to what the petition is about, and the voters read that specific explanatory statement?
Correct.
That's exactly right. There's a ballot title that's already been prepared that's in the staff report. It is what appears on the ballot. The explanatory statement is what appears in the voters' pamphlet. And then the third piece is the actual initiative language, which is attached to the staff report. Unfortunately, that is not actually directly provided to voters. They just have the explanatory statement and the ballot title.
This is Counselor Young. So I said all along that I thought this is something that should always go back to the voters. It's not something council should take action on. just because the voters have voted on this twice, and for council just to adopt this would be, in my opinion, a slap in the face to the voters and taking away voters' rights. So I had always said they should gather signatures. They've done that effectively, and I would either take no action or reject this for the voters.
I would concur, that's where I'm at as well.
Yeah, I would agree with Councilor Young and Councilor Browse on that. You know, if you look back at the history, the voters originally, as Sherwood voters, voted against legalization, and then twice again voted against allowing recreational sales in Sherwood. So this is really a decision for the voters. The group behind this initiative petition did their yeoman work and got the signatures required and approved. So it's time to send it to the voters.
Any other? Well, yeah, go ahead.
So it sounds like there's two ways to send this to the voters, either by rejecting or by taking no action. What's the difference? Can you recap that again? I missed it, I guess.
I think the only difference is probably a symbolic one. Whether you take an affirmative vote to reject something or just don't take any action whatsoever, the end result is exactly the same.
Seems odd that there would be both then. And if we either way, we craft an explanatory statement?
That's correct.
Okay, but we're not doing that tonight.
Right. I will draft that. If the result is this is going to the ballot, I will draft that and it will be on your next agenda.
Okay.
I would clarify. Oh, sorry, Tom. I would clarify then what I said with that explanation, that I don't think we need to vote on rejecting to be symbolic. It could just be a no action. So it can go to the voters.
Other thoughts, comments from members?
I just had a question on the limitations of the appropriations of the taxes as is written in 3.25.040. Shown here that its purposes and expenses would go towards either public safety infrastructure, capital expenditures, or to the City of Sherwood Police Department. Does that need to be any further defined, or can it just be stated as such?
It's
So that's the language that was provided by the chief petitioner. That is the language that will be enacted into law if the measure passes. There are a number of items that you may notice elsewhere in the petition language that clearly will require some subsequent action by the City Council if this is approved. For example, on page 44 of your packet is a couple different sections that say this chapter shall be amended to conform with the above provisions. So I would anticipate if this is enacted into law by our citizens, and I think that the chief petitioner expects this as well, City Council will be preparing an ordinance to kind of clean up maybe or further elucidate certain points or bring different parts of the code into alignment to effectuate the intention of the voters.
And truly, in the starkest of facts, if this is approved by the voters, and if there is a majority of council that wants to do some amendment down the road, 2 years, 10 years, 30 years down the road, they can. To amend it further does not require it to go back to the voters.
Yes, the parallel I've drawn, I think in some conversations with others of you, is Measure 91 that legalized marijuana at a statewide level. Subsequently, the Oregon legislature has made adjustments to that law in almost every session. And I don't know that we would have to do that level of tweaking, but City Council does certainly have the flexibility to make changes moving forward to address whatever issues need to be addressed.
So, other comments? All right. My 10 cents. Yeah, congratulations to them on getting the signatures. I'd say just let it go on the ballot and let the voters weigh in. My sole criticism, and just to say, for folks that while we're in this pandemic, if anyone else in the future wants to do a petition, I was very disheartened by the sight of a older, I don't know how old he was, but an older gentleman collecting signatures in front of the post office, not wearing a mask, not following any sorts of safety protocol, handing the placards to other older folks to sign or reject, and I was truly fearful of COVID being spread that way, because there was no safety protocol being processed when I saw it multiple times. Anyways, that's just a side comment. If no other interest from council to do anything, we will move on to item C. We all right with that? Sounds like we're all right with that. So item C is Sherwood Police Department policy updates. Jeff?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So, just by way of recap for everyone in the meeting and maybe watching, we had a work session on June 30th, and as a result of those conversations, there's a couple things specific to our police department policy that we wanted to follow up with. One of them was council would like to have a process of review. That was decided that the police advisory board would be a great group to do that. We have begun that process at their last meeting. We started reviewing 2 chapters, and so that will continue until forever. I mean, at some point we'll get through the manual, but there will be enough updates and changes, and we'll go through those ongoing. The second piece was to make sure that the policy manual was available to anybody that wanted to look at it, so we have our most recent version uploaded on the website, on the police department page, for anybody to access. I think Joe said it was like 691 pages, so as I've said, it's quite a document, but anyway, it's there. And then the third component is what you have before you tonight, Council, and that is just an informative update or information about updates that the policy has received. So this is our first crack at putting something together to give you that information. And what you have before you is something that you're used to seeing as a staff report, and it's really just kind of captures the latest version of updates that we went through end of June, 1st of July. And we discussed most of these already in the work session. There's certainly some of them, but anyway, so just an attempt to put together some kind of a report or document that would tell you what the updates, the most recent updates were, and frankly, I just used the advisory language I got from Lexipol because they are going to explain things in the most efficient and effective way. So that's what you have before you. So certainly if there's any questions about those, I will answer them, but then also I think what I'm looking for and Joe is looking for is to see how this works for you. If this method doesn't work, then we can kind of tweak the document or whatever, but again, the attempt is to just let you know what the updates in this last process contain. And as you can see in the report, we know for certain there will be another series of updates that come at the end of the year. There's 2 a year, but I anticipate there should be one prior to that, because I do not believe they've probably finished the work from the Oregon legislature, and there's more work coming, so I expect there'll be more updates pushed out as that process continues down in Salem and changes are made in state statute. So with that, I will certainly entertain any questions or comments about "we love this," "great work, Chief," or whatever you want to say.
I have a comment. I was, along with Counselor Young, who was in the meeting, I watched the Police Advisory Board meeting, I think it was last week, and watched the chief go over each and every one of these items in detail with the board, ask them questions, are you okay with this, and went through every single detail. And that was the process that I was hoping we were going to get, that oversight that we talked about. And I thought it went really well. So that's my opinion. Counselor Young was there as well, so maybe she can comment, but I thought it was great.
Thank you, Counselor.
Well, just to clarify, we didn't go over all of these changes. Chief started and pulled out some specific policies to review, like use of force, bias policing, but not specifically all these changes that he notified. But you're right, I agree that the process was really good, and that's encouraging, and I think having our police advisory board for that aspect is going to be great moving forward.
And I felt that they took it seriously. I felt like, Chris was asking some hard questions, and the chief was squirming a little bit, and I thought it was great. I mean, not the squirming part, but I thought they took it absolutely 100% serious.
Yeah, there were some tough questions that were asked, and Chief handled them really well.
Yeah.
He didn't necessarily agree with, the premise of all questions, but he had great answers that satisfied the member of the board, and they all had done their homework. They were prepared to ask those questions, and so it was really a good process.
It was very transparent. Anybody could have tuned in and watched it just like I did. Extremely transparent, and that's, I think, what we were after.
And Jeff, thanks for this. For the next update, certainly have it the changes reviewed by the advisory committee with a recommendation to concur, and then I'd like to see the report early as a resolution on the consent agenda. And then if folks want to pull off the consent agenda to talk about it, they can, which we usually give the right to every counselor to do if they want to, but then it says, yep, just a good process to follow. Other thoughts, comments?
Just well done, Chief.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, Mayor.
Great job.
Awesome. Thanks, Chief, and thanks to all the members of our advisory committee too. It's important work that they do to help our community and the council.
So, Mayor and Council, I'm going to also update the rest of Council. I told Mayor Mays this today. Jeff has been working on some draft language to adopt an ordinance. This is also something we discussed in the work session to codify or make permanent certain things that we want to see in our police department, such as a long-term commitment to accreditation, things that you want in a police chief in terms of that person's background and experience, things that survive the change of whoever's sitting in that seat, whether it's the chief of police or the city manager. So we're working on that language with Josh. We'll probably bring that back in a work session to kind of continue this discussion, which we said all along didn't end 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. It's just the beginning. So more to come.
Excellent. So now we'll move on to public hearings. We have one public hearing today. Sylvia?
The Sherwood City Council will hold a public hearing this evening to hear testimony on Ordinance 2020-006, amending sections of the Sherwood Zoning and Community Development Code to allow for hospitality and lodging uses within the light industrial zone with special standards. The public hearing this evening will be conducted as follows. The public staff will present a staff report, questions, if any, by the City Council for staff, and then the council will receive any written testimony. Mayor and Council, at this time, I have not received any testimony for this ordinance. One more section. This is the second hearing on this ordinance. A decision may be made by the council at the close of this hearing, or the matter may be continued to a time and date certain. If the matter is continued to a time and date certain, this is the only notice of that date the public will receive.
Thank you, Sylvia. Erica?
Thank you. So I don't have any additional information to add from the last presentation or from what's in your staff report this evening. With that, I can answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Erica. Just for clarity again, so this is a public hearing. We did not get any testimony for the public hearing, so we're closing the public hearing portion of this hearing. And now, questions of staff by council or comments. Yeah, Eric, I'm appreciative of the work that you did with our planning commission and bringing this forward. I am supportive of it. I think it is some good changes.
I tend to agree. This is going to be a good thing for sure.
Yeah, I agree as well, and I think it makes a lot of sense if we are going to have more hotels come to town, which I think we need, that putting them basically, for lack of a better way of describing it, in between our industrial and our commercial zones makes a lot of sense, because that's where the people are visiting, besides the tourists, of course, coming out for wine.
Good job. I'm in support of it as well. Nice job.
So, if anyone like to...
I move that we recaption and adopt ordinance 2020-006, amending sections of the Sherwood Zoning and Community Development Code to allow for hospitality and lodging uses within the light industrial zone with special standards.
Second?
Thank you, Matt.
Ordinance 2020-006, amending sections of the Sherwood Zoning and Community Development Code to allow for hospitality and lodging uses within the light industrial zone with special standards. Councilor Scott, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilor Griffin?
Aye.
Councilor Ross?
Aye.
Councilor Young?
Aye.
Councilor Garland?
Aye.
Council President Rosner?
Aye.
Mayor Mays?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sylvia. Thank you, Erica. And thank you, council. The ordinance is adopted. Next is city manager report. Joe?
Mayor and Council, I know we still have a fair amount of work to do in our work sessions, so I don't have anything necessarily to update you on. I do want to just remind folks it is construction season. There are a number of transportation projects that people, if you're driving around the city, know are being done. Hopefully the intersection at Sunset and 99 and Kruger will be done soon. The end is near, but please travel safely and slowly through those construction zones. We're also going to start our annual summer maintenance of roads with chip seals and some other things. So look for those orange barrels and construction signs and things like that. You may have some detours on the horizon just to be aware of. So it is a normal, busy time. We have no problem doing this kind of work in the COVID pandemic time. So, and it's important to maintain and improve these roads. So that's the only thing I really wanted to mention tonight. Unless you have questions for me or any of my team that are on the call.
Thanks, Joe. Questions for Joe? Or Steve?
I have a question for Joe or Chief. So the message that came out today on the Sherwood Police Department Facebook page about concerts in the streets and whatnot, can we just get a little explanation on that and why we wouldn't want those taking place, or if they can take place, what citizens might need to do, or maybe they just flat out can't take place, and is that because we're in phase 1 and whatnot?
Chief, do you want to take a stab or you want me?
Sure. I'll take a stab. So, I'm just grinning, Counselor and all of Council, just because of how that simple reminder on that post turned into a completely different conversation. It wasn't intended to be about COVID and social distancing necessarily.
Right.
But that's fine. Such as social media. But it really comes down to those events constitute a block party. Unless, a few friends get in a front yard with a couple guitars and a 5-gallon bucket and they make some music, obviously that's not what we're talking about. But when a professional, I mean, from my perspective, Hit Machine is a professional group, right? And so, and it's not about Hit Machine. It could have been Michael Allen Harrison or Jeff Groth and the Bangos or whatever you want to call it. But when a professional group comes into a neighborhood to do a concert and everybody comes out of their home, that is a block party. And oftentimes there's things that occur with block parties, to include the street is getting blocked off, whether they actually physically block the street off or it's figuratively blocked because there's a crowd of people there, and that has an impact on citizens coming and going, but also on emergency response and different things. And so just as a city, we have procedures in place and rules in place to be able to manage those. And one must need to plan ahead and get a permit for street closure, get a permit for a block party, those kinds of things. And so as much fun as it is and as tempting as it is, and of course all of us are starving for fun kinds of activities, we just can't have impromptu events like that are contrary to our procedures and our code, and not to mention the potential that there is for the music to get bothersome to some people that are a block away or whatever, and so that's really what it was about.
So, with that said, if somebody wanted to still do that and they applied for the proper permits and whatever they needed, what's the likelihood of those being approved right now, Joe?
In phase one,
Yeah.
extremely unlikely, because Oregon Health Authority provides a whole range of guidance and categorizes different activities and events and gatherings, and anything close to describing this is not allowed in phase one. So you basically can have 10 people or less gather. It gets a lot easier in phase two, but as we all know, we're not at phase two at this point. The other important thing that Chief didn't mention is there would be an amplification and noise permit to have amplified sound. We require, in this case, for a neighborhood like this, 10 days notice to a certain number of a radius of where the event's going to take place to ensure that the neighborhood knows that they're going to have a concert on their street. And are you okay with that? So there's a process that could allow this. I think this is much more likely to be approvable in phase two. We've made the decision, if you don't comply with Oregon Health Authority phase one guidelines, we will not issue a special event permit. Even if you meet all the city requirements, we're not going to necessarily violate the state's rules, and there's liability for the city if we allow things to happen that the governor and OHA has said no to. A la opening up our playgrounds, which we really want to do, but we're not allowed to do that in phase one.
All right. I just wanted to have some clarification for those watching tonight. So, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Tim.
you.
And it's important to note that during the COVID phase one, we've issued special event permits. We've issued street closure permits for the July weekend. One or two special event permits, right, Joe?
Yes, but they complied with OHA guidelines.
Exactly. Yep. So it's important if you want to just do something that gets out in the street, just give the city a call and make sure that we follow process.
And I would just like to interject on behalf of the Robin Hood Festival Committee, which I am a member of. We haven't had a lot of activity this summer. Hit Machine was scheduled to come be at the festival, and they love coming to Sherwood because we have them out every year. They're like Saturday night, like clockwork. And I respect the fact that they were just going to have an impromptu block party in Sherwood. I love that. Who does not? I mean, I would have gone out, and maybe in 10 minutes I would have called somebody. Maybe in 15 minutes I would have called somebody. But still, and they were very gracious online on the website. They said, hey, we didn't mean to cause, we were just trying to spread joy in the community and 80s music, which I love. And, but they've canceled all future spontaneous gigs in the city. So, but we love them. We love Hit Machine.
Campaigns, digital
We want them to know that.
Yeah. Other questions of Joe or city staff? Or even Josh?
I don't want to exclude Josh.
So
We're celebrating a certain
Yeah.
day today, right, Mr. Mayor?
I was hoping someone would bring that up. It is an important day for someone. Who? I think the attorney, that Josh character.
Is it birthday?
Or is today your wife's birthday?
It is my birthday, and
Oh.
what I asked for my birthday was a city council meeting, and I got it.
Oh, I'm so glad we could accommodate your birthday wish.
I don't know if I find that.
This meeting is never going to end, so there's going to be no celebration back in Josh's place.
Campaign,
right.
media creation.
And small world, you have the same birthday as my cousin. So, anyways, no other questions for the collective on staff?
I
Move to council documents. Or Tam, you have a question?
I'll do it in my announcements,
All right.
which I can do now.
Yeah, you're on the hook.
Very brief. I really don't have anything, but I do have a question for the chief. I was wondering where we can go to see Jeff Roth and the Bengals play. I really want to see that game.
Well, that's what happens when I pull something off the top of my head.
5 gallon bucket.
Thankfully, you can't go anywhere to see that.
I want backstage passes.
Yeah, I won't even sing Josh happy birthday.
And then happy birthday, Josh, and I'll leave it at that for this evening. I know we got a lot more to do tonight.
All right. Other announcements?
Okay. Happy birthday to Mr. Soper. Just real quick, there is currently just started over the last weekend, I believe, the community housing survey portion of the Sherwood 2040 comprehensive plan update process. So go to sherwood2040.org and take the housing survey. I think we're shooting to get 400 or 500 responses on that survey. I think we want to beat what the Parks Board got on theirs, which was, I think, around 500. So,
Erica, do you want to chime in and give them an update on that?
Sure, we already have. We have received 843 responses within the past 3 days, and it's online for another 2.5 weeks.
Woo, that's
let's go for
awesome.
2,000. We need 2,000.
Wow.
We hit a nerve.
Oh,
Dare I ask, just not to be the cynic, but it kind of makes some sort of important. Do we know the zip code or the address of those that are completing the thing?
so that information we will have like the website analytics to folks who completed that survey, so we will know like if they live in Sherwood for the most part.
And so can we sort it so that it's only folks that are living in town?
We could definitely take a look.
Is
At that.
that report of it?
I don't know the back end of the survey, but I can ask that question.
That
Yeah, I
would be very
think also
easy
note
to see.
that those things are not necessarily 100% accurate. I don't know if any of you have ever gone to a website, like checking your speed or other things, and they'll tell you where you're from, and they often don't. They often say you're from Tigard or Beaverton or some other place. So we should get an answer from the survey people on the accuracy rate of that zip code filter.
So, anyways, that.
I don't have anything tonight.
Okay. Thank you, Kim. Renee? Anything?
I don't have anything tonight.
Sean?
No, I don't think so. Everybody just stay safe.
Russell?
Nope. Doug talked about the housing survey, which I was going to plug, and happy birthday to Josh. What is he, like 25 now?
Oh no, he's at least 53. Oh yes, I'm exaggerating, I'm sure. At least a couple years.
Couple years.
Yeah.
You notice he's not responding to our questions.
I think we should decorate his office and absent.
Employees' privacy is the utmost importance, so I'm throwing you off the scent.
There you go.
As I told the mayor, I believe that my birthday will fall on a city council night once every 14 years, so I'll get to celebrate my big 5-0 with you guys as well.
Oh, ooh, you are young.
We're all jealous, Josh, that's all.
Thank you, everyone. Not much for me to report either. This will be quick. Of course, we're still in phase 1 of the state guidelines for COVID-19. Please, everyone, wear a mask when you're out and about. I think that's been made pretty clear. We all can't wait till we get phase 2 or we get progress on this thing. Hopefully, the kids will be able to go to school soon, but we don't know if that means January or September. But for the families out there, the sooner the better. I thought it was kind of interesting in today's report for Washington County. There was one reported death in Washington County of a 59-year-old male with no underlying pre-existing conditions. So that should cause pause. And the numbers, the reported cases today were lower for Washington County than they have been, which was good. With that, we are going to adjourn the City Council meeting and reconvene our work session. So, thank you, everyone. Be safe. Enjoy the good weather. It's going to be sunny and warm for a while. And I know folks like to get out and enjoy the good weather. Some more than others. I like my AC. Thank goodness I have it. All right, everybody.